can do it in English. There's a lot of newcomers, so just so that you know how we usually do it here is that we get a presentation from our guest, and afterwards I'll keep track on who wants to ask questions. Priority is given to foreign media because that's what we're here for. So I hope we can respect that, but of course we try to make sure that everybody gets a chance. And then to Kuupik. I've been practicing a little bit today, so I'd like to say Tikil IPC imut. I think we should start and let people see in slowly.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here again. I think I've been here, this is my third or fourth time. It's always nice to meet you guys. Sometimes it's a little bit different than the local media, so that's maybe why I like it that much. Anyway, it's different kinds of issues that you usually want to cover. I have been asked to elaborate on mainly three issues, which is it's all dealing with foreign affairs and the Greenland position with regards to our international contacts and the increasing role for Greenland when it comes to acting on our own with respect to foreign policy, which of course goes together with the very rapidly increasing interest for Greenland in general, and with the increasing interest for mineral resources particularly. We introduced the new status for Greenland back in 2009, which is called the new self-government for Greenland, which is basically a new agreement and a new arrangement between Greenland and Denmark. Greenland is now granted access to take over all areas of responsibility when we decide so. Opposed to the situation before 2009, basically we had to negotiate everything with the Danish government in order to also take over the monies that goes with it, in terms of that what the Danish government might be spending on the specific area that would go together with the area itself to Greenland. The new agreement is that whenever we decide to take over new areas of responsibility, we have to finance it ourselves. And that's why the decision is with us. Otherwise, the remaining areas which we cannot take over today is the foreign affairs and defense policy. It's the monetary system, and usually I also say we cannot take over the royal family.
You have it already.
Though we like to do. I don't know. Probably the royal family, the royal Danish family, is more popular in Greenland than in Denmark itself. That would be a good reason to move to Greenland. Anyways, the central issues, of course, and the debate in Denmark nowadays is on mineral resources, whether Greenland will be taken over by East Asian companies or governments, whether the Greenland society will be flooded by thousands of Chinese workers, and whether we have ability and whether we have the capacity to secure that the Greenland society itself gets their fair share of the revenues that might derive from the activities on oil and minerals. Before actually elaborating on that, I'd like to state that the situation today is that there is one tiny gold mine which barely exists and barely can overcome the economic obstacles that they're facing. I have a lot of flashes in my eyes. And that though there are a lot of projects on the table, the Greenland government is only we only have one application in hand, which we are now working on establishing the framework so we actually can process the application for extracting iron from a location nearby Nuuk, the capital. So just to establish a common understanding that there are no big activities with regards to mining and oil and gas in Greenland today. Though you might get the impression, especially from the Danish press, that there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, which is that we are now these very days meeting with the Danish government on the issue or the amendment, the awaited amendment to the regulation on foreign labor, which is a minor amendment seen from our side. It's simply a one-pager which deals with ways of processing applications for working permits and to actually to make the bureaucratic handling of the applications more flexible. It doesn't deal with the conditions for obtaining a working permit. It doesn't deal with any other issues related to the regulation of foreign labor. It's simply a way to make it easier for the bureaucrats to process the applications, which actually we have during 2010 and 11, when exploratory drillings for oil and gas was going on offshore West Greenland, we tried out the system, the existing system, which worked perfect. Now we are talking about greater numbers, so we need, and the ministries of Copenhagen needs to be more flexible in handling those applications. Otherwise, there's no essential change to the regulation of foreign labor when it comes to Denmark. We had some busy days in Copenhagen. I did bring with me five other colleagues to meet with the Danish government. We had some very fruitful discussions, and the Greenland government and the Danish government agree upon every issue that is covered by the current debate in the Danish public, including the questions of the International Labour Organization's conventions, including questions on the conditions for foreign labor in Greenland, including wages, and also into some degree discussions about the involvement of Denmark in terms of new legislations or possible interventions by Danish government if any projects of those on the table today would be flying. Also, I need to mention that the legislation on big-scale projects in Greenland, which is to regulate any kind of activity which falls under the definition of big scale in Greenland, is that the definition of a big scale project in Greenland now is a project where the construction investment is about 5 billion Danish kroner. Which is that not every project, whether it's mineral project or any other industrial project, would be identified as a big scale project. All the other activities, smaller activities than $5 billion initial investment of $5 billion will be carried out according to the existing regulations, and that's no news. Also, I think it's fair to say that the big scale law, as we call it, the regulation of big scale projects in Greenland, is meant to protect Greenland companies' involvement with the projects. It provides protection for foreign labor in terms of minimum wages, and that foreign labor is protected by international conventions, and all the rest means of protection you might be asking for. In comparison with the Danish situation, we claim that we have now a better protection of foreign labor in Greenland than you have in Denmark, and also that we have advised the Danish government to work on a regulation like the Greenland one in order to, all the big scale projects we have going on in Copenhagen, for instance, that would be easier to manage those wide projects that you have if the Danish government were to establish a regulation like the one in Greenland. It's not to be rude, but actually I think that it would be wise to consider whether to establish a framework which is based on international conventions both to protect your own economy, but also to protect foreign labor. Foreign labor, international labor, is nothing new to European countries or other countries. It's new in Greenland. But for the rest of the world, international labor has been existing for many, many years, but it's not always treated properly. As I said, we had some busy days also meeting with the opposition parties of the Danish parliament, just to meet face to face on those issues. Lots of Danish politicians have been worried on behalf of the Greenlanders. Whether that's an expression of actually wanting to protect Greenland, or it's a part of the game of domestic politics, I'm not the one to judge upon that, but I think it's a mix of several agendas. Lastly, I'd like to state that this is a completely new year, 2013. We expect a lot of new activities in Greenland, and we hope for and expect that more companies will be sending in their applications to establish new projects with regard to minerals and hopefully also oil and gas. And also that this year in Greenland will be a year of elections. We will have elections for all political forums in Greenland during 2013. So, aside from being a very busy year, it also there is at least a potential for a shift on the political scene in Greenland. That's what I think.
Great. I can see that some people already sneak, so I already have Staffan, I have Jan, and I have you. I think we'll just stick to pretty brief questions, if that's okay.
Quite to be brief. Staffan Dahl, Swedish Daily Göteborgs-Posten. You mentioned yourself the compliance with ILO conventions, and this has been one of the issues being debated in Denmark. Have you been able to convince the Danish trade unions that the claims you made that Greenland will fully comply with the ILO conventions, that they have understood your point as you see it? And then, if time permits, I would like to hear very shortly about your trip to South Korea. Did that pay off enough?
It goes without saying that in the process of actually writing up the proposal for the Parliament, we did check upon which kind of international conventions that we had to look into in order to provide the necessary protection for the international labor force. But as you know, the debate has been going on questions related to the ILO conventions and the compliance of those conventions. Mainly, the Danish unions have been very active in that. The thing is that I regret to say this, but we've been asking those unions to actually read what is stated in the regulation. And last week, at the meeting with the Danish government, we did confirm that both on our side, of course, but also on the side of the Danish government, they concluded that their investigation about this issue and the compliance of the ILO conventions did turn out positively. And we have now an official paper on that from the Danish government, which I think the Danish workers' unions should be aware of. I didn't have lengthy discussions with the unions myself. I know that some of my colleagues have discussed with them, and hopefully we are on the same level. With respect to South Korea, I was on an official visit this December, and it was a very, very interesting visit. And the South Korean government have demonstrated its will to cooperate with Greenland. We have signed a series of memorandum of understandings which regards to cooperation, mainly with respect to educational purposes and scientific research. But also, I know that some companies did sign agreements with their counterparts in Korea on elaborating on the opportunities for cooperation in the field of mineral resources. But basically, I think both the visit of the Korean president in Greenland and my visit in South Korea established a foundation for further deliberations and very friendly relations between our countries.
just before passing on to the next, I forgot one thing. Please just present yourselves and the media. So the next one was Jørgen Tulstrup.
Yeah, my name is Jørgen Tulstrup. I'm the publisher of News Express, Danish newsletter in English. We have heard over the last years that the fishery resources in offshore Greenland is dwindling. How urgent is the transition from fishery into minerals? And then a tiny follow-up is that you mentioned the tiny gold mine. Is that the one belonging to Nuna Minerals?
No, it doesn't belong to Nuna Minerals. I don't even recall the name of the company, which I think is a Canadian company. It shifted the owners. But the basic thing about that is it's a small-scale activity which has been facing difficulties economically over the years and during the whole existence of the gold mine. And unfortunately, I think this year is not very positive either for the specific gold mine. But I'm sure that you will have the news when it comes. With regards to the fisheries, as you know, Greenland economy is strictly dependent on two pillars of economy. The one being the export of fisheries, and the other pillar as the block granting from the Danish state, which forms the basics of the Greenland economy. The fisheries itself is going good. It's steadily increasing in value. That's mainly to the world market fluctuations. The world market's been very positive over the last 2 years. But at the same time, we are under a hard pressure to regulate the quotas in order to achieve labeling like the Marine Steward Council labeling or other international labels, and in that way maintain our access to the world markets. That again means that we have to be very strict on our management of the quotas. The total amount of fish and shellfish is not increasing these years. On top of that, the climate change, the consequences of the climate change are that the stocks are moving. The stocks are moving north to be short. They're moving to temperatures which usually live in, and by the increasing temperature of the seas, all living stocks are moving north.
But the cod is coming back.
Maybe we get the mackerel. That's another story, which could eventually become a big story. But for the time being, we don't have any significant fisheries on cod. We are sticking to the species that we have been fishing for many years now, and this year we did cut in the total amount of catch for shrimp by, as far as I recall, by 12%, as we did last year also. So we are in need for establishing other significant economic activities than the fisheries. Tourism, anything, I would say. But the obvious, tourism maybe provide 5 new jobs a year. That's not significant. I said new significant activities. And we are lack of jobs, we are lack of new economy. and the obvious opportunities are, of course, within the sector of the mineral resources. But we are eager to establish any kind of new activities which can provide Greenland with economy and jobs. But we are in urgent need. And I would not live up to my responsibility as the head of Greenland government if I didn't pursue every day the goals of establishing new economies. That's simply a fact of life. I heard that the former Prime Minister of Denmark the day before yesterday proposing that we would postpone all this stuff, and he didn't define how long, but I think that he should be asking the Greenland people whether they want to wait 10 years more to actually see that there is an opportunity for raising the living standards, and also to improve the infrastructure of Greenland, to actually have the economic opportunity to improve all the areas which needs improvement. The Greenland society is not a rich country. It's not a rich society. We are heavily dependent on the two pillars I've been talking about, and we don't see actually that there are other obvious areas to develop for the time being.
Did you ask Lars Løkke why he?
I didn't get to talk to him myself, but I certainly hope that you will have a chance to do that.
I think we should move on to Johannes. Were you first before?
I think so.
Okay, right. So we say Sydsvenskan.
Yeah,
you were all there at the same time, I think.
Two short questions. One, is there a set date for when the Folketinget will approve of this new law? And second, what do you think will be the impact if many thousands of Chinese workers will come to live on Greenland? I mean, it will increase the inhabitants, the population of Greenland from a couple of percent up to 10%. What will happen, and what problems and what good things do you see from that?
We are hoping that the Danish government will table the proposal for the parliament during late February, I think. Then when it gets adopted, I'm not in a position to predict that. Hopefully it will go smoothly. The impact of thousands of Chinese workers to Greenland. First of all, I think there is a need for actually being more precise about what does this mean. The thing is that if any of the big-scale projects will be flying, first of all, they need financing, they need loans, they need investors to believe that actually those projects will be feasible. For the time being, I'm not aware of any of those projects who have secured their funding.
Not even the mine?
No.
Okay.
Not one single of those projects. Probably the process, the political debates and the process of actually establishing the regulatory framework to process the applications been one of the hindrance. but also the general situation, the financial crisis, the global financial crisis had a lot of impact on the willingness of the funds and the banks and the governments to finance projects like that. Greenland is kind of virgin to activities with this sector, which is that in comparison to Australia or Canada or other Africa, other countries which are mature countries in terms of that you're used to activities with regards to mineral resources. We have a lot to do still to develop both practices, but also make the world believe that it's a good idea to make business in Greenland. We don't know that yet, because we have very limited experiences. Or if we imagine that one or two of the biggest projects which will be covered by the big scale regulation would be flying in the coming years, I would say most of those projects, or all of those projects, will be located really far away from the towns and inhabited places, which is that you have to establish camps in the inland, and those projects will be really isolated. The workers would not have any easy access to actually mingle with the local people. It's hard to me to actually predict what kind of impact on the Greenland society international labor force would have, because it's really hard to predict camps of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people 200 kilometers away from everything, which kind of impact they would have. Hopefully they will pay their taxes and also provide Greenland with new industries. Aside from that, it's hard to tell whether some of those people would want to become a part of the Greenland society itself. But if we would have mechanisms to deal with that.
I would think in healthcare or social services.
Healthcare is provided by insurance.
I think I'll move on to Johannes. We have a very long list here.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that was correct order now.
You mentioned the dependence of this gross grant, or what do you call it, block grant,
Yeah.
from Denmark. As far as I understand, the future income from oil and gas revenues will be deducted from this block granting. Will that also apply to other natural resources, for example, this mining income? Will they be deducted from the block granting?
We have been looking very closely at Norway in this regard. The Norwegian system of placing the revenues from those activities into a fund where you are only allowed to take the interest from the core capital. We did set up a similar system in Greenland years ago. We've been preparing for this many years, but once the interest exceeds the amount of block granting from Denmark, we said then we will have a new situation. Then the Danish government and the Greenland government at that time would sit together at the table to consider the new situation and to judge upon what kind of future relations Greenland and Denmark would have with regards to economy. It will take new negotiations. When that will happen is completely impossible to predict today, but that's the agreement we have.
But is it only for the oil and gas, or is it for all?
No, for revenues covered by the law of minerals in Greenland.
And then we have Reuters from the bank.
Thank you. I just wondered if you could elaborate a little bit about the impact the financial crisis has had, if you expect any specific projects to be actually delayed further out or something like that. And then also I wondered if you could tell us what your rough outlook is for foreign investment in the coming years. I mean, now that you're finalizing things like minimum wage, I mean, do you see it sort of taking off this year or more likely next year?
I think it's especially for Greenland as a new country with regards to mineral activities. The investors wants to secure the monies, and let me just briefly state that as a government, we are not really involved directly with negotiations between the companies on funding. What I know is the information I get from the companies. And the information we have is that they're spending a very hard time negotiating with investors. And the monies are not that loose in their pockets anymore. So what we are hoping for is actually that this year we will be able to grant 2 new licenses at least. Given that the companies have made agreements with investors, and the most mature project, which is on extraction of iron ore, they require initial investments in the amount is, as far as I remember, 14 billion Danish kroner, which is a big project. Also in comparison to European projects, and the other one is a little bit less than the amount for the iron mine. At least what I can say is that we are hoping that we will be able to process applications like that this year. Other projects, I'm not in a situation to really guess on when will the companies send in their applications, or which scale might those projects be.
I think we'll turn to the right now. We have a question from Michelle. Also a brief one, please.
Yeah. Michelle Rasmussen from Executive Intelligence Review. Our magazine, as well as many people in the world, are looking at the Arctic development as the new frontier. And the question is, do you see that Greenland could act as a bridge to help expand the cooperation between the great powers, United States, Russia, and China, which right now there's a lot of tensions building up because of the Middle East, because of the missile defense and other things. That's one thing. And then the other question is, in terms of the problem with financing for the great projects, I know that you, when you had signed a statement critical of the financial world in their financial crisis about a year ago. Would you support the idea of separating the banks so we could write off the speculative debt and have more emphasis on the financial world on actually financing real productive development?
The last question is a hard one. I think I will leave that by just saying that we are fully aware of the debate on those issues. My government don't really have an official view on whether the financing sector should be subject to more political influence. But we are following the debate closely. So I will limit myself by saying that. With respect to the to Arctic as a new frontier and Greenland bridging, we usually would say we are bridging Europe to North America. Earlier on, during the years of the Cold War, we were kind of not really a bridge, maybe a wall between the Western world and the communistic world. Today, the world and the balance of powers are changing rapidly, and Greenland being the geopolitic role of Greenland is now becoming more and more the question of Greenland playing a role with regards to strategic minerals, which is quite similar to, in my view at least, quite similar to the situation during the Cold War. But then again, one should be careful in addressing that kind of issues when Europe or the United States are asking Greenland to break the Chinese monopoly on rare earth elements, for instance. How would European Union and especially European Union act if the situation should arise that Greenland would be blocking any investments from countries which Europeans don't like? And that's a very, very big question, which cannot be answered like this. It's me myself. I have to balance my official statements on this. Let's go without saying. But what I can say is that actually European Union Parliament been asking those questions to Greenland. To be more direct, the European Union parliamentarians have been asking Greenland to exclude some countries. My answer to that is that we are not in a situation to exclude investors from any country, unless, of course, some specific situation might arise. But Greenland is open for investments from the whole world, taking into account that the investors accept the regulations and requirements from Greenland in doing so. Also, I want to add that when you look at the big international companies dealing with minerals and big industries, it's really hard to tell where they come from. would you be able to identify any kind of capital floating around in cyberspace? Would you be able to name a US university that it is actually an American university if it's owned by Chinese investors? Would you go to Australia and name one of the thousands of mineral companies that they're Australian actually, if they're funded by capital from anywhere else? So on one hand, we are of course strictly aware of the responsibility that goes with dealing with that kind of issues. On the other hand, I think that it's not fair to ask Greenland to play that kind of significant role in balancing the powers, like the fight, or not the fight, the to protect others' interest more than protecting, for instance, China's interest.
I think we should move on to Thomas at the back.
Royal German News Agency. If you look at the Danish debate about on Chinese investors in Greenland, do you find what came up in the media, what politicians have said, in general fair, or do you think there's still some element of colonial or post-colonial arrogance in it, or is it just about cool cash?
I would neither use the word colonial or arrogance. What I would say is that I have noticed that probably almost all Danish companies want to establish themselves in China, and that the Danish government frequently goes to Beijing to ask for Chinese investments in Denmark. I know that the foreign minister of Denmark have been to China at least 5 times during the last year. So has other ministers. They meet in the airport of Beijing. So there is a very, they're very, very active in attracting investments from the Eastern economies. But when it comes to Greenland, we have been warned almost every day that we should be aware that investments from China or Korea or other Eastern healthy big economies would not be suitable for Greenland. And I've been asking the Danish government, why is it so? Why is it that you think that Chinese investments in Denmark are healthy, but that Chinese investments in Greenland are unhealthy? Of course, as I said earlier, that Danish politicians being worried on our behalf is somewhat an expression of wanting to protect the small nation of Greenland. On the other hand, I don't really see what the difference might be, because we are both countries, or all companies are selling products. They want to be a part of the increasing economy in those countries, and we have aspirations like that too.
I think I forgot one on my list, and that was in fact Yigal sitting there. And then I'll try. I think I have quite a lot still wanting to ask questions. So either if you have already had a reply from something else, or then we'll try to do it.
Yes,
but Yigal was
Israel Radio. It's a continuation to the last question. How would you describe the negotiation or the talks between Greenland and Denmark? Do you feel yourself equal to the Danes, or do you feel yourself in a way a minor partner in this respect? Do you find a mutual respect from the Danish side, or is it, as my colleague said, a kind of a colonialism process between Denmark and Greenland?
We do have excellent relations to the Danish government, and we are working really closely together. And the fact that by 2009, when Greenland got its new status, being more sort of independent and internally autonomous, that really pushed the issues of foreign policy and defense policy. The recent developments in Greenland and in the world in general have done that we are working much more closely together with the Danish government than we ever had. So that might be kind of contradictory, but the situation requires that we are really aware of the integrity of the Danish kingdom. The Danish kingdom includes Faroe Islands and Greenland as well. And we have to act as an entity, though it can be quite difficult in some areas. With regards to whaling, for instance, that's obvious that we don't have the same views on those issues. But in general, with regards to international politics and to what kind of principles that we will be sticking to, human rights issues and environmental protection and so on, we are working closely together with the Danish government. And I would claim that our relations today are on equal basis. Some might sometimes think that the big brother attitude might be too dominant sometimes. But what I sense is that it's not on purpose.
I think we move to, we have also a brief question again, because the list is long.
Two questions. One is, what's going to happen for the fuel station in the South Greenland? The fuel station. And the other question is, what are the sector or services you'd like to see to outsource to?
The last question again.
What are the sectors or services you'd like to see to outsource to other parts of the other countries? Or
the airport of South Greenland would either exist for a long time still, or be replaced by another airport. That's what. That's a very hot issue in Greenland. So I wouldn't be too specific about that. That the public in Greenland would be hearing from Copenhagen what to happen with the airport in Narsarsuaq. What will we be outsourcing? We will not be outsourcing anything. Greenland's situation is that what we have seen historically for Europe, I usually would like to tell more about how Europe didn't succeed with outsourcing. It's, in the first place, they exported all their pollutant industries. They exported the heavy industries. Then they exported the services, telephone services, internet services. And suddenly Europe discovered that they had nothing left. So now that they're trying to take back some of the jobs. And actually, when discussing with the European Commission on those issues, I think that what Europe is facing now is that Europe obviously needs to establish new industries to be able to overcome the current crisis. It goes without saying, with no jobs, it's really difficult to maintain a healthy economy. For Greenland, it's a completely different situation. I think what we need to do is to insource everything we can insource.
I have, I think, 4 more.
Okay.
Sort of. I have Karen Jensen to my left, to your left.
Karen Jensen from Recharge News. I actually had 2 questions, but I'll start with perhaps just one. You have a zero tolerance policy on uranium production and extraction right now. One of the side effects of mineral extraction is that you might get, in certain parts of Greenland at least, you can get uranium. I know there's a debate going on in Greenland, and some people suggest that the zero tolerance policy might change after an election. Could you update us on what is going on in terms of debate in Greenland and what the chances or possibilities are of a change in that policy after an election?
The Parliament of Greenland did reach an agreement, or the pro-uranium parties and the zero tolerance parties to uranium, so to speak, met. They made an agreement on establishing an independent body to investigate the consequences of lifting the zero tolerance for uranium. I wouldn't predict what the outcome of that would be, but as I said, we have elections during the spring for the Greenland Parliament, and what I see is that the new Parliament will have to take the report from this independent body into account, and then eventually lift the zero tolerance towards uranium. Today we are aware of 2 or 3 or 4 known deposits of different minerals which also contain uranium. We have approximately 120 active licenses, and none of the rest of the licenses are kind of they have no obstacles with regards to content of uranium. So it goes for a limited number of projects, and to me it's for the time being it's no major hindering except for one specific project. But today we are not aware whether or how high you have to set the if lifting the zero tolerance, then how would you define the new upper limit for content of uranium? We are looking at Canada, we are looking at other places, and the limits, the upper limits that has been established. Whether that would make the specific budget fine, I'm not able to predict today.
Then we have NTD, been waiting for a long time.
Lisa from NTD TV, Chinese TV station based on New York. My question is, because the system of Denmark, Greenland is quite different with China system, and the value of Denmark, Greenland is freedom and democracy, and the Chinese government use still controlling system. Due to these 2 differences, probably in the future the cooperation probably lead misunderstanding, conflict problem, and also several southern Chinese people come to Greenland will influence the Greenland society. What do you concern about that?
We are of course sharing the values, the fundamental values of freedom and democracy together with many other countries, including Denmark, and also with regards to our approach to those issues in the talks with the Chinese government. The Greenland government holds the same positions as the Danish government. I did address the issue of a possible influx of Chinese workers to Greenland. I think it's for me it's fair to say that it's really hard to foresee any impact on the existing society of Greenland today if a number of Chinese workers would come to Greenland. As I said, the actual projects are very isolated from the towns and the inhabited places. It's really remote, and whether we get to see any of those workers is, I don't know yet. But hopefully we will see some of them, since we are talking so much about foreign labor force. To my knowledge, the system the companies want to establish is that they get in a number of workers for 3 months or 4 or 5 or 6 months at the most. Then the new group will be coming in. So that you won't see like the same people being at the spot for 5 years, for instance. That would be too much, I think. So there is nu er jeg fuldstændig nej. The way of handling those group of people that we're working on together with the Danish ministries is that probably 3 months to half a year would be the amount of time that workers should spend in Greenland, and then there'll be a shift.
I have Julian Isherwood.
Yeah,
Right.
BBC. Just one bit of clarification. You said earlier that, I'm not sure whether you said the European Parliament or European parliamentarians had asked Greenland to exclude some countries. Can you elaborate on that? That's the first thing. The second is you started off by saying that Greenland was going to become more visible in foreign affairs. What areas are you thinking about? Are you thinking about Arctic affairs? Are you thinking about defence? What? In relation to other countries?
I discussed with a European Union parliamentary committee on the issue of securing Europe the necessary minerals for their industries. So to be very precise to your question, it was a European Parliament committee on industry, as far as I recall. When it comes to Greenland's visibility.
No, and they asked you to exclude some countries.
Oh yeah. They were asking whether it would be possible for Greenland to do that. And my answer to that, would you be able to do that yourself? And guess what the answer was? No, we will not be able to do that. And then I replied again, then why would you ask Greenland to do something which you're not able to do yourself? On the visibility, I think we have been very exposed for the last few years, both in terms of lots of people, politicians, scientists, celebrities coming to Greenland, and also in terms of my government receiving invitations from all over the world. And that goes both with the obvious issues on minerals and so on, but also in terms of the Arctic agenda. Countries and governments who wants to get involved with the Arctic issues. Arctic as the last frontier have become very interesting for the governments of the world in general. I think the situation is that everyone wants to get involved with the Arctic today, whether you're a tropic country or whatever kind of country you might be.
Jeg har 4 fyre på listen. Skal vi til at samle, eller
Ja,
skal vi
ja.
tage alle 4 spørgsmål
Ja.
og svare på dem
Ja.
samlet? Okay, so I have 4 more. It's Tom, it's you from Monday morning, it's you in the corner, and it's Berlingske. Could you ask your questions and then we'll just do them in one long answer, if that's okay? So I'll start with you actually first at the back.
Sten Ulrik Johansen for Rigsdag. Kuupik, the general election, when will that be? One question. The other one is Christian Sørensen, the Danish economist, wrote that it might be so that the companies would stuck the minerals in the ground. Do this great scale legislation oblige the companies to utilize their licenses, or can they just stock it in order to keep the world market prices?
Okay.
Because then you won't get anything up.
And Monday morning, that's correct, wasn't it? Yeah.
If the Danish Parliament chooses not to pass the special law on foreign workforce, importing foreign workforce, what will the consequences be in terms of the big-scale projects that be lined up to start in the years ahead?
And then I have a brief one from Son.
Yes. My name is Roy Pata. You have been with Danish Prime Minister Henrik Smith. You hold a press conference last week, and you have been mentioned welcome Chinese come to Greenland. There are 3 governments in China: China, Taiwan, and China, Hong Kong. The People's Republic of China, which vocation and which government do you most interested in? Thank you.
And the last one is from Vibeke from Berlingske.
Yes, you mentioned that you hope to have 2 projects approved this year. You mentioned Iswa as one of them, and which is the other one you hope to approve this year?
If you've forgotten some of them, I haven't.
Okay. I do have a very short answer to when the general elections will be in Greenland. It will be on the date which I decide upon. There's only one person who knows that.
Is there a latest possible date?
The last possible date is 2nd of June. But one of the very big ambitions I had for establishing my government was that we would last for a whole election period. So now I just had the information when I left my office just 1 hour ago that nobody longer in Greenland knows what elections after a full election period means. Christian Sørensen and his views are always very interesting, I think, and whether the legislation on big-scale projects will be prohibitive with regards to actually extracting minerals. I sincerely don't hope that's the case. But I think the point he made was that being almost a virgin country to mineral extraction and being part of the global competition in that field, you need to be very aware of what kind of requirements you would put up. And also, you have to benchmark yourself all the time against other areas of interest when it comes to minerals. Russia did just some few weeks ago, they took a new step in lifting taxation for new companies exploring mineral resources in the Arctic Russian area. And every day you'll see that competition is getting tougher due to the global economic crisis. Developing countries, countries in need for investments are always developing their regulations in terms of improving their ability to compete on the world market. And that, I think, was the point that he made, that you don't really attract companies because they want to be friendly to you or because they want to put money in your pocket. You attract investments because investors want to make business. And that's the bottom line. I think any other way of looking at this would be false and also taking away the necessary focus. If not, the Danish Parliament would pass the new amendment to the regulation of foreign labor. I would say then we have to stick to the existing regulation. That would be very complicated, but nonetheless, there is a way of handling that kind of applications. It just, with the existing procedures, it takes a very long time, and I think for the companies who wants to attract thousands of international workers, that would be very, very complicated. But we do have an existing regulation which have proven that it can work. On the question of whether it's Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, China, or the People's Republic of China, I don't have any distinction on that. That's it.
Singapore.
Which two projects are we hoping for I will put it the way we are hoping to process applications from at least two projects this year. The one being the iron ore project, and hopefully the rare earth project, the one which do not meet obstacles with respect to uranium. There are two known projects today. The one which is most mature is situated close to the big Cranfield project, this one is much smaller. But we are hoping to receive an application from that company.
So from the Australian temporaries, that's the one
Yes,
you're
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we missed the one from Monday morning, or did you touch on that? You did touch on that. That must have been me being concentrating.
That was Monster.
Yeah. I'd really like to thank you very much for spending all this time with us. We hope to keep this habit. We had room enough. We actually have this fixed from last year. We keep on having the new gallery. Last year was there. I think for all of you, I think a lot of you have an interest in Greenland, so I just want to say that on the 23rd of January, we have a press meeting, which is a presentation of a project called Images from Greenland. So look on our website, and we'll also send out the invitation, so students will get a Greenland story.
Får jag natt? Brønner. Ja. Er der ikke?